Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I have a pretty exciting match up against chemtrails, and well, it shows you the importance of pressing temp range and temp speed and the type of impact it can have in the late rounds. Now, I decided to go for Amplify spec here with Arc Lights and Steel Balls. I thought it was a pretty solid opener, and Arc Lights in general are very good at the moment. My opponent decides to go for Sabertooth here with Crawlers, and he is a cost control specialist. Amplify Core, not the most impactful, but it does always give you a very nice slab of hit points, which means that typically you're a bit less likely to die early on to, perhaps a bad matchup, a bad, setup. And it gives you a little bit of leeway in terms of setting up your board for the mid to late game. Opponent here is also going to buy some Arc Lights, and it looks like we will be ending up in a headbutt, which I was kind of aiming for. I am currently not running Kinetic Charge on my Steel Balls. I wanted to have Armor Enhancement back on. I might end up flip-flopping back to Kinetic Charge because I haven't ended up clicking up Armor Enhancement in a little bit, but yeah, I've been testing out different techs. So being in a crossfire here doesn't necessarily do that much for me. I won't be able to scale my range if I had that tech. Now, Sabertooth, just going to be set up here next to the Arc Lights, Crawlers right behind, and I mean, we'll have to see. Now, Sabertooth did get a bit of a change recently. It got a bit squishier, a little bit less base attack, but faster attack speed of 3.2 instead of 3.4, which does matter against these mid-sized units, Sledgehammers, Badgers, and Steel Balls, which, might make it so that I struggle a bit more in the early game. Now, usually, when you put your Steel Balls at the back like this, the Sabers end up winning round one anyway because they're working with the range advantage and the Steel Balls just can't quite get through, which seems to be the case here yet again. Only 2 Steel Balls make it through. And they will end up killing at least 1 Saber, but that's going to be about it. And yeah, my Arc Lights here won't be able to finish the job. Chungus does try its very best, but it too will die. And then my Arc Light will have to bite the bullet at the very end. Not the end of the world, though. I kind of expected this, and, round 2 is where the real work begins, as we have some spells to take into account, as well as some cards that we have to consider. Improved Tarantula, very good, but here I already have triple Arc Light, and it's not that good into Sabers either way. The transition would just be a bit too painful, and I really wanted to make sure I had anti-air here, which is why I just end up picking the safe option, which is Shield Airdrop, which also ends up countering Missile Strike in a way. Improved Void Eye, very good card, but I wasn't too interested because it doesn't give me anti-air, and yeah, I just felt like it would make it a little bit too easy perhaps for my opponent to get into something like Raiden if I'm also playing Arc Lights and Steel Balls. So I decided to go for the Phoenix instead to make sure I have some anti-air, maybe even win the round by default. And I was thinking, do I want to keep it on my main board, or do I want to try and attack this right side tower, which was fully open last round? And I say to myself, well, if I manage to get the debuff, then putting this on the right might not be that bad of an idea. Let's just go for the right side attack. Let's keep a little bit of space between these Crawlers and the Phoenix so that I don't necessarily have to sell them next round. I won't be able to move them because I don't run Jump Drive. And, try and keep this pressure up on the tower. Turns out my opponent goes for Void Eyes, improved Void Eyes at that, and immediately clicks Charge Shot, which will be very, very good against my Steel Balls. But he doesn't have any anti-air, which means that I win the round regardless of what would happen here. With the debuff, though, most of my units will remain alive, and I get a very good tempo round on the board. My shield also manages to stay alive, which I was pretty happy with, so yeah, not too shabby. And round number 3, again, lots and lots of options available. Portable shield, usually kind of decent on Steel Balls, but this is the one downside to Amplify Specialist, which is I already have items on my Steel Balls, and on top of that, I'm not even sure if this would do that well. Void Eye, especially improved, especially with Charge Shots, is very, very capable of dealing with Steel Balls, so I'm not even convinced that going for the item here would be that good. Instead, I'm more so looking at either Underground Threat, which I will have to deal with, or Improved War Factory, which is a very good card as well. And I end up settling for Improved Factory, thinking, well, that is a unit that might be able to contest these Improved Void Eyes. I pick it in advance. I won't be able to immediately buy it, but at least I'll have the card available. I do know that this is vulnerable to the Underground Threat, so I'll have to deal with that. The main way that I like to deal with it is just to put a Crawler there, which is going to serve me throughout the game as a late chaff back, and then paired with a missile, which should be able to win. This spell has gotten significantly weaker compared to what it used to be, and now a missile plus a little bit of chaff tends to be more than enough to be able to counter it. I'm going to go for another Arclight here, range my Arclight, and my opponent is going to do the exact same. Arclight here on the right side will be able to deal with the Crawler, 2 Marksmen to be able to try and deal with my Phoenixes. I will have to see if I manage to get through or not. Level 2 Sabertooth, crucially in the middle of the board, which is going to be very hard for me to deal with. If my Steel Balls die and my Phoenix goes down, trading with the Marksman there, I'm not too sure I'll be able to kill this. Arclights are going to do their very best though, and they will at least have the debuff to work with, but I'll lose my shield, and with that, I think I won't be able to win here. Looks like my Arclights will put in the work though, and at least take down that Sabertooth, saving me 200 hit points, getting a level as well, but that's going to be about it. My opponent does manage to break my shield and get a round win. That leads us to round number 4. We didn't have any unit reinforcements yet, and so we get them now. All Giants or level 2 Scorpion. Melting Point, I would say, here is the safest option, as it beats all of the other drops, generally speaking. It's not a bad unit either to have on board. I think for my opponent, same thing. Not a bad thing to pick up, especially if they had a look at my cards. They know that Factory will get picked. Melting Point isn't always the correct counter to it, but it can be useful in some scenarios, and it's never bad to have the unit unlocked at the very least, since that does get baked into that unit drop. For me, Melting Point is nice because it allows me to deal with the Sabertooth pretty easily. I'm hoping that my opponent doesn't add any chaff, but either way, I have a new Arclight here to be able to support my Melting Point, and a Crawler behind as well. And that's pretty much gonna be it. I add a Fang as well on this right side, just in case I get flanked. Opponent immediately, with the help of cost control, is able to afford Shockwave on Arclight. I've talked about this in my previous videos, but it is the most popular and probably the most effective form of chaff clear currently, at least for its cost and for how safe it is. It isn't tied to a large unit that could easily die, like a Spider or a Wraith. And yeah, just a very, very strong unit. I would likely have to go into it at some point myself, but I don't really have the resources for it right now. I opt to add a Phoenix as well here on the left side, just to be able to make sure that I have some DPS, hopefully be able to take down some of the Void Eyes, maybe the Sabertooth, and see how this goes. Phoenix is going to lock on to the enemy Arclight and take it down, but I do lose one of them to the enemy Marksman. Thankfully, my Melting Point here does a good job of taking down the Sabertooth instantly. The right side doesn't look too great, but maybe my level 2 Arclight can do something. Doesn't quite look like it though, with the help of the Marksman, although I do trade against the enemy Arclight. Not bad, considering I have this late Fang pack arriving, and kind of annoying that enemy Marksman, making sure that it can't help out against this Melting Point, which is kind of my last bastion right now in this particular round. Tanking everything, trying to take things down. It does have an Arclight paired beside it, still alive. And I take down the enemy barrier, which I'm quite happy with. Looks like I should be able to win here. Melting Point ever so slightly too tanky, and we'll be able to get a victory. Now, round number 5. We get an Incendiary Bomb, which isn't too bad. Rhino Assault, something to consider as well. Even Mobile Beacon, slightly cheaper than from the tower. And I was opting to play Corner Factory here. I didn't really want to play Spawn Factory because Improved War Factory mainly gets a lot of battle stats, range, attack interval, and HP and attack, so I really wanted to try and play this aggressively to try and get rid of the Void Eyes at round start. And I opted to go for the Incendiary Bomb, knowing that I have a shield airdrop, my opponent doesn't, and they may not want to go for a barrier here, considering they lost one last round. They instead go for the Rhino Assault, try to kill my Phoenixes with it, from the looks of things. And here, I expected my opponent to go into ranged Void Eye with Charge Shot and just buy a whole bunch of them, which does seem to be the case. The reason for that is Void Eye is just a very good unit into things like Melting Point. It's, not a giant that loves fighting these type of smaller, mid-sized units. It more so wants to fight really big single targets. So, yeah, that just was a sensible play to me. And so I thought to myself, do I want to already preemptively sell my Melting Point? Or do I want to keep it on the board for one more round and see how it performs? I opt for the second option, keep it on the board. I sell a steel ball, transition the item onto the melting point. The extra tankiness here won't be terrible. 85,000 hit points. I go for a sledgehammer flank as well to try and pull away as much stuff as possible. Sadly, my Phoenix ends up getting Rhino dropped there. Both of them die. And that also means that all my DPS will be gone. But I land my fire, and that means that the Void Eyes that were there all burn to a crisp. So does the Chaff, so does the Marksman. And it looks like my melting point will actually do a pretty good job overall, considering how tanky it is here. Keep in mind my opponent is cost control specialist, so even though he does have improved Void Eye and Charge Shot, the damage is slightly reduced, and it seems to be making a little bit of a difference, especially when I get the debuff. I think my melting point here should be able to clutch up. Maybe it ends up dying to the Void Eyes once they recover from the tower debuff. Looks like that will be the case. But at the very least, my Phoenix is able to finish the job here, and that brings my opponent down to 2,500 hit points. Round number 6. Another shield airdrop shows up. Probably worth picking, to be honest. I think generally if there's nothing that you want to pick from the cards, it's just a really good spell. And, you know, on round 6, when both of you are relatively healthy still, there is a chance that you will see it back. Because, to be honest, even though I've, you know, been ahead in terms of dealing damage and winning rounds, I was expecting myself to kind of have a bit of, you know, transitional pains here. Because my melting point will now fall off, especially with triple tank Void Eye being clicked. Suppression shots is really going to, I mean, just, yeah, ruin all of my units when they get hit. Arclight also does not like losing range. And so, yeah, I have to sell out of that melting point. It served its job and go for the factory here in the corner. Now, ideally, I would have loved to have enough money to go for high explosive, which I guess I could have done by not deploying any more units. But I really wanted to have a crawler here, and then I thought to myself, I have the money as well to grab the Phoenix level and add maybe another crawler here to the right side of this factory, or even take some attack and defense enhancements, a mobile beacon. It just felt like that was the right thing to do, and looks like that will be what I go for. Just another crawler here. I thought about an Arclight, but then I thought to myself, I probably will want high explosive ammo, so do I really need another Arclight to help this? Probably not. Opponent goes for triple Wasp though, to cover the flank, but also to kind of punish my lack of anti-air. Only have one Fang at the back, 2 Phoenixes, one of which likely will die pretty soon. And so, yeah, killing 36 Wasps is not gonna be the easiest of tasks for me. If I can win the ground, then maybe my Phoenixes can eventually just brute force everything. But, you know, it's still gonna be a pretty tall task. The Void Eyes here also reducing the range on my factory to 77, which is a big reduction, right? 30% compared to its base range, which is 110. And yeah, that is definitely slowing down our advance on that side of the field. The right side loses quite convincingly, and so it's only gonna be my Phoenixes and my factory left. But sadly, my Phoenixes are getting flanked here from the middle, and it looks like they will end up going down. I don't think I'll be able to get rid of all of these remaining Wasps. And on top of that, my factory is starting to struggle a little bit. These Void Eyes with range and charge shot, as well as a suppression shot, 170 meters of range after temp range has been clicked, really are doing quite a number. And now round number 7, I mean, I was hoping for this. I get Mustang. Really happy with that, because it kind of solves my problem of having to, you know, use deployments to buy Mustang to be able to deal with the Wasps. So very happy with that. And it allows me to go for high explosive on this factory and hopefully kind of start the move from the corner into the tower. Right side is mainly just here to stall. I'm not going to defend it just yet. Eventually, I might end up putting a factory here, but, you know, that's pretty much going to be it. For now, I'm really focusing on this side of the field. I'm going to add a sledgehammer here to the flank, maybe a crawler as well, just to make sure that anything that may show up over here gets distracted and doesn't insta-lock my factory. Now, speaking of insta-locks though, remember that melting point that Chemtrails picked up? It is, you know, still unlocked, and looks like it'll be recruited here at level 2. They also ended up picking the high-level Vortex from the unit drop. I think one of them might have gotten sold, but the other one is still on the board, and it is a very scary unit with very cheap tank techs. And yeah, here comes the level 2 melting point with absorption from my opponent, and he's just going to chuck it so close to the line that it's not even going to want to turn. Melting point especially really wants to keep shooting forward if possible, so even though this crawler is closer than this factory, it is going to keep shooting forward rather than turning and shooting whatever is closest to it. And that means that my factory is getting insta-locked by an absorption level 2 melter. And even though if it can lock back on, it is not going to have the damage here to punish it. So I instantly lose my tech improved war factory, and that is not a good sign whatsoever. Now thankfully I do have the Mustangs. I have at least a level 2 Phoenix with an item, so I can take down the enemy melting point, but I don't expect myself to win here. And yeah, I'm probably going to take quite a significant amount of damage. Trying to reduce the numbers of enemies as much as possible, but right side tower will fall, and yeah, that will send me down to about 2,500 hit points. Now, there's no real good way for me to solve this. Opponent here gets Assault Melting Point, which is, even more of a disaster. So I really cannot stay in front of them. I have to sell this and move further back. Thankfully, that is something that Improved War Factory can do. And yeah, I mean, I pretty much don't have a much different option. Range on the melting point, which is expected. Another melting point on the right side to try and maybe deal with another corner factory, although I don't have the space here to put down a factory. I think this is 6 spaces from the line. I wasn't really thinking about that when I set up this aggressive play. So yeah, the factory would have to get behind here. For now though, I'm just going to sell the factory, buy it back at level 2, give it range enhancement so it can at least contest the melting point. In fact, it now has more range because my opponent took the assault melter. And you might think, doesn't high explosive really hurt you? But at level 2, Improved Factory doesn't care too much about the loss of attack, and it usually has enough damage to kill even, tanky giants like Assault Melter, as long as you have, plenty of chaff clear and kind of units to go in front of it. That's why I add this level 2 Sledgehammer in front, and I beacon back my Mustangs to make sure that they don't get caught by the enemy arc lights. Right side is still going to be struggling. I have leveled this tower at least once, and I'm just kind of trying again to stall as long as possible. If I can kill the chaff, then that would be fantastic. The left side melter has at least gone down, and looks like it's just going to be a battle between my factory and a couple of my chaff clear units, and then my opponent's army with the void eyes and that melting point. Factory fights back admirably, but it looks like I will end up getting debuffed here. Melting point locks on. It does have the absorption, and it will survive here. So take a little bit more damage, sending me down to 1,600 as we now get unit reinforcements yet again. And here I think to myself, well, let's go for the steel balls because my opponent is awfully close to the line, and I do run fortified target lock, which is, precisely the reason why you would run it. Is these types of very aggressive positions from opponents with particularly giants, but sometimes even titans. This should insta-lock, and even though my opponent has absorption, the steel balls should be able to easily take it down with their combined DPS. Opponent also goes for steel balls, but doesn't run kinetic charge, or not kinetic charge, but fortified target lock. Not that it would do too much here. It's just going to be used as a distraction. I have fire back as well. I'm going to try and land that, thinking to myself, if these lock on, they might be able to just instantly kill any shields that my opponent puts down. So the fire should help me chaff clear. The only potential downside is that if it stays around for too long and I win this side too quickly, my Mustangs might end up burning to a crisp. And then, there is a little bit of a concern in terms of anti-air. We will have to see. But yeah, that was pretty much what I thought about. I did click Shockwave as well on my arc lights, and I don't have money to go for anything else. A crawler here on the flank just for additional, chaff to distract the opponent's units. And the entire play is basically just into the steel balls right now. Looks like my opponent was expecting something of the sort though, and he beacons backwards his melting point away from the line, so I'm not entirely sure if I'll be able to kill this. In fact, I don't think I will be able to, because, one, I was already almost at max range, and 2, that melting point is an assault melter, which means that it is 5 movement speed faster than the base version. I will lock back on, though, once it comes back, so we will just be able to kill that about, as quickly as if it wouldn't have moved at all. Opponent, by the way, going for aerial mode Void Eyes now, fully teching them, but there's no EMP armor on the bar, so now they do get kind of vulnerable to my Mustangs, and I'm not too unhappy about this change. Looks like we're going to do just fine. The missile catches those wasps. I will take down the tower, and I have enough anti-air here to be able to take down the enemy Void Eyes. I will say enough. It is really just enough. But I managed to fight back and send my opponent down to below 2k. Now, round number 10, nuke shows up. Deployment module for my opponent. They decide not to go for the nuke in this case, trusting their team and mainly wanting to move back their melting point. One of them can be sold, the other one can just be moved back to safety. And, well, that way my steel balls are not going to have the same amount of value anymore. Whenever they have to travel, this tech doesn't really do that much. It's mainly just good for these insta-locks on round start, which has now been mitigated. And, well, at this point, I'm just thinking about I should probably try and get another factory on the field. The slight problem is I don't have the money to add another level 2 factory, so they'll have to be level 1. And, yeah, opponent now triple teching their melting points with EMP and really focusing on the right side. I was hoping that my steel balls would be able to kill any of the barriers on the right side, but we'll have to see if that actually will be doable, because enemy melting points are locking on now. And, oof, the middle factory got EMP'd and locked onto, so that's a lot of my resources kind of just instantly dealt with by my opponent. I spent, you know, 1 deployment and 1,000 resources on that, and it just died without doing anything. So it's going to come down to, again, this left side factory, which is ready to be level 3. And we'll have to see how much it can do. I have some chaff left at the very least. I have some Mustangs as well to get rid of the wasps. And how much will this factory be able to do? If it doesn't get EMP'd, I think we might be fine, but, you know, that is a big if. 1 melting point will die. Here comes that EMP. It does hit my factory, and the melting point will live because it has the absorption. So there we go. Do get taken out, and are now down to 1,200 hit points. Heading into round 11, it really is a pretty long game with a lot of different things happening across the board. Units are being sold, being moved. Quite a good variety of units too. Round number 11. Nothing too impactful here, to be honest. I could go for something like an Overlord, but my opponent has got the air covered, really. So I'm probably just looking to sell and go for that Sandworm. Opponent with the Farseer, perhaps picking it up preemptively to try and deal with any EMP. I do have the electromagnetic impact back off cooldown, so that makes sense. It'll also make their board even tankier, at least at round start, perhaps even harder to kill, which definitely is something to take into account with the Salt Melting Point. And, well, for me, I end up just taking the Sandworm and selling to have more money available. And I'm thinking to myself, should I add another factory somewhere over here, perhaps, to at least try and catch the chaff and maybe kill, you know, as many of the arc lights and things as I can. I do level my level 3 factory because it's been doing very, very well. Slight reposition there on the barrier. I'll have to put down something like a crawler here to make sure this EMP doesn't go straight to my factory. This Fang that I put in front the round prior was a bit of a panic move. I should have just made a crawler that would have likely done a lot better, at least at preventing the insta-lock from happening. And yeah, here we go. Level 3 factory, another level 2 on the right side. Attack 2 also been picked up. Should help out the factories, should help out my Arclights and Mustangs. How much can we do? Steel Ball's doing a pretty decent job here of at least taking down some of the higher level Arclights. Factory fighting back, clearing the chaff as I intended with the high explosive. And we are managing to lock on to this melting point in the middle. Although I am slowly running out of chaff, so I think that this poor factory getting EMP'd again will actually just go down and contribute to some more hit points, or healing at least, from my my factory. And here we go. Again, it's a battle between these 3 melters on the right and the chaff plus my level 3 factory. Will it be able to do enough? I think it definitely can take down the level 1 and level 2 melters, but the real thing is, can it take down this level 4? Gets EMP'd, will recover, but won't be able to take down those 2 melting points, and I go down to 425 hit points. Now, round number 12. Lots of items I can't really use. Advanced missile device, perhaps a little bit too late, but smoke bomb could be useful, and I decide to go for it. My opponent goes for the ball spawn item on the right side, which is very powerful. I can't use it because Titans can't carry items. But I'm thinking to myself, should I go for ball spawn? Because, you know, kind of similarly to why this item is good on the strong side, where the opponent is winning and so it will get to spawn a lot of stuff, you know, factory can just do that naturally. And I have some steel balls on the board already with techs, so my spawn steel balls will have the same techs. I'm thinking to myself, maybe I can just focus on that and then go for mechanical division to really try and, you know, annoy the enemy units once they run out of chaff clear. Because I think I can probably kill those arc lights. I sell my Phoenix, it's been dying a lot and it retrieves 300 resources. That allows me to get into mechanical division. And apart from that, I don't have a ton of money left, so I should just buy, you know, maybe some chaff at the very back, maybe a late steel ball, something like that. This is where, however, I don't know why, but this happens to me sometimes, I just completely forget to click loan. And because I don't click on the tower, I also forget to get enhanced range and high mobility, the temp speed, which is definitely a bit of a problem. Usually I always tell myself and will tell others that, you know, once you get this late, you should instinctively just do that at the start of the round. Press the tower, loan, temp range, temp speed. Boom, done. I wouldn't be able to tell you why I didn't do it here, but I don't. So let's see if that makes a massive impact or not. The smoke actually manages to land, catches at least one melting point, and my opponent adds hackers with range and EMP to the bar. So that'll definitely annoy my own steel balls, and on top of that, I might end up getting my factory hacked here, which actually looks like, oh, thankfully the melting points have so high DPS with the help of the Void Eyes that they do take it down without hacking, which I honestly don't mind too much. And are we going to be able to win this? I'm not too sure. I still have my big factory left, but that looks like a ton of chaff. Left side trying to get into the tower as fast as it can. We'll eventually get a debuff, but I only have one factory left. It gets hit by the EMP there. Now turning, steel balls trying to get in front of it. How much can we really deal? I can't afford to lose too much. One melting point can stay alive, but that'll be pretty much it. Factory now starting to fight back, but gets EMP'd, gets locked on, therefore doesn't kill the level 4 melting point. And it looks like it will just be lights out. 3 melting points, a bunch of hackers still alive. We'll just seal the deal. I don't know why the factory is still on the board there. I guess it is haunting the battlefield, or perhaps haunting me for not clicking temp range and temp speed, but that does seal the deal. Now, the real question is, how much did this impact the round? And, well, thankfully, we do have a replay feature for that to try and test what would have happened if I just went for the regular play, right? So we go for the smoke here, try and land it. I decided to go for probably this shield over here, and then I guess a shield over here wouldn't be a bad idea either. We sold this. We went for mechanical division on the steel balls. We went for ball spawn. I should loan, temp range, temp speed, and then we have this item that we can throw onto the Mustangs. Aside from that, yeah, not too sure what we want to do here. I probably leveled this and then bought a bunch of chaff, I think, was my play. So let's just do that. Crawler here all the way in the back. And then maybe someone over here or over here. Both, honestly, are completely fine. And then I still have 150 left, which I could put into maybe this this Mustang, and then maybe one of the arc lights that is performing the best. Perhaps this one. And then call it a day. I could beacon, but I don't necessarily have to. Let's just see. I want to test how much the temp range and the temp speed really does. So the smoke does land, which is honestly a really nice thing. And already we can see a little bit of a difference here in how things are going. For one, the big difference is that, well, I lock on earlier. And two, I also pressure this tower a lot faster. I think last time my steel balls didn't even get through by the time this right side tower got debuffed. But this time, it's a completely different story. I now get the tower first, in fact. And now I'm traveling over to the other side of the board, and sure, I will get debuffed here, but I also get a debuff in return. And now my opponent is very busy trying to deal with all these steel balls that are spawning, staying in front of my factories, and I have enough anti-air left to punish all of the enemy Void Eyes. So yeah, it's pretty important to click temp range and temp speed, as you can see. I didn't really change much, maybe a slight positioning here or there, but temp range and temp speed definitely makes that big of a difference. Just getting through the oil quicker, getting that debuff, and then getting the second one to fight on your own terms rather than, well, fighting on your opponents. And the 1593 damage, don't know if it would have been enough. Wouldn't have been, but it was awfully close, and then we would have gone to round 13, and maybe we could have seen how well that would have truly gone. The smoke would have at least stayed, and yeah, could have been an even, you know, more interesting match, I guess, going to round 13, but already kind of a banger. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments below, you know, what you thought about it, and if you've ever seen, you know, a game like this, whether you like playing carry, improved factory whenever the card shows up, let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. That being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.